Obviously not to this extent, and I think the ceiling that Alex Eala has is obviously that much higher. And I'm going to bring in a little boxing here because my dad wanted me to be a boxer, but I chose tennis. But Manny Pacquiao.
Good call.
Manny Pacquiao, we saw him when he, was at the top of his game, and alongside Roger Federer, he actually had more pride.
Nobody is mincing words here. No disclaimers. No careful hedging. The analysts have made up their minds, and they are saying it loud. Alex Eala is the most famous woman in women's tennis on the planet right now. And here's the wild part. Indian Wells hasn't even started yet. The draw hasn't been announced. But somehow, the entire conversation around professional tennis has already collapsed into a single name. That's not hype, that's gravity. Current players, all-time legends, they're all pointing the same direction. They're all arriving at the same conclusion. Alex Eala isn't just rising. She is the story. And the sport, they say, needs to fully reckon with that. But the experts didn't stop there. They went further, comparing her not just to today's stars, but to the icons who shaped the game and walked away having left something permanent behind. That's when Ana Ivanovic spoke up, and honestly, it changed the temperature in the room. Ivanovic, a Grand Slam champion, a former world #1, looked straight at the panel and said that Alex Eala has already surpassed the kind of fame Simona Halep spent an entire career building. And she said it with complete respect. This wasn't a takedown of anyone who came before. It was something rarer, an honest admission that what Eala is generating, the global attention, the fan devotion, the sheer cultural pull, is something the WTA has never seen move this fast or reach this far. Then Ivanovic went somewhere nobody expected. She compared Eala's impact on women's tennis to what Manny Pacquiao did to boxing at the absolute height of his powers. Think about what that means. Not just competing at the top, warping the sport around her, making the whole world stop and look. Eala isn't sharing the spotlight right now. She's swallowed it whole. And Ivanovic's final word? Crystal clear. If Eala keeps this up, keeps playing the way she's been playing, nothing stops her. The top of women's tennis isn't some distant mountain she's dreaming about. It's where every match, every court, every moment is already taking her.
I think that if Eala, can keep doing well with her tennis, who knows? The sky's the limit on the court, off the court. I mean, she could be rolling in it, if you will.
But here's what really sets this apart. What makes the conversation around Eala feel different from ordinary sports hype? The experts aren't just talking about her results. They're talking about her, the way she moves through all of this, the way she carries herself when the cameras are on and when they're not. After that win over Igos 5-8, analysts kept coming back to the same observation. The spotlight hasn't changed her. She steps into massive moments, delivers, and then, nothing. No performance, no posturing, just a person who clearly loves the game and respects everyone in it. That's not something you can manufacture. The truly great ones, the ones who last, they all have it. This quiet assurance that doesn't need to announce itself. Grace under pressure. Confidence without arrogance. A groundedness that makes you trust her before she's even hit a ball. And when fans see that, they don't just follow her. They root for her. Deeply. The kind of loyalty that doesn't fade after a bad tournament or a tough loss. That combination, elite tennis and genuine character, is something the sport spends decades searching for. Most players have one or the other. Eala has both. And she has them naturally, which might honestly be the most remarkable thing about her.
Last year, when she beat Iga Swiatek, and she kind of did it with a lot of grace and humility, and it was really, for me, it was terrific to see her take that match and watch her play after that and watch her try to continue to progress, because I like her game. Obviously, she wants to get better than where she is now.
Then Sam Querrey stepped into the conversation, and when he speaks, people listen. This isn't a commentator working from the outside. Querrey is a former Grand Slam finalist. He's lived inside professional tennis at its highest level. He knows what real drawing power looks like, and he knows the difference between a player who's trending and a player who's transforming the room she walks into. And his verdict? No qualifiers. No, one of the biggest. He said Alex Eala is the biggest draw in the WTA. Period. Not in the conversation, the conversation. He said she's reached a level of magnetism that no other player on tour can currently match. And what struck him most wasn't the numbers or the ratings. It was the atmosphere. Every time Eala steps onto a court, something shifts. The energy changes. People lean forward. And that, Querrey was clear to point out, is not something a marketing team builds for you. You can't script it. You can't replicate it. It either exists or it doesn't. And with Eala, it's completely, undeniably real. Then he said something that genuinely landed differently. Query suggested that players like Aryna Sabalenka, Grand Slam champions, women who have sacrificed everything to reach the summit of this sport and actually gotten there, might be watching what's unfolding around Eala and feeling something about it. He didn't dress it up. He let the honesty sit there. Because think about what that means. These are the best players in the world. They've won the biggest titles the game has. And the wave of attention, devotion, and cultural energy that follows Eala from city to city, they've noticed. Of course they have. Query said it because the moment called for truth. And right now, the truth in professional tennis is impossible to look away from.
Probably women's tennis right now.
Yes.
Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco?
Dude, it's crazy. She's having the same effect that Fonseca was having, like, on the men's side last year in Miami.
It's like Fonseca, but I think it's bigger than Fonseca.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Like, the Doha, like, crowds were insane for her last week.
Yeah.
Correct.
She's definitely one to watch, obviously because she's so good, but just for the atmosphere. You want to tune into her matches just to see what it's like on the court.
There's got to be like a little jealousy maybe from some of the women. That girl's coming in, she's not top 10.
But this is where the story stops being about analysts and starts being about something you simply cannot argue with. The players are talking, not pundits, not panelists with microphones and hot takes. The competitors themselves, the women who share the court with her, who prepare for her, who face her across the net. And what they're describing doesn't sound like tennis commentary. It sounds like witnessing something historic. Jessica Pegula came forward and told her story about the Miami Open. Pegula is one of the most seasoned, battle-tested players on the WTA tour. She doesn't rattle easily. She's seen big crowds. She's played big matches. She knows what atmosphere feels like. And she walked into that venue completely unprepared for what was waiting. Before a single ball was struck, the place was already alive. The crowd was massive. The noise was electric. The emotional investment pouring down from every section, point by point, rally by rally, was unlike anything she had braced herself for. She used the word insane, and the way she said it made clear she wasn't complaining. She was in awe. She was standing inside a moment she recognized as genuinely extraordinary, and she had the self-awareness to say so out loud. Then Pegula made the observation that really stuck. She said this isn't a one-venue phenomenon. Miami, the Australian Open, Dubai, across different continents, different tournaments, different moments in the season, Eala has consistently brought the largest crowd support of any player on the entire tour. Consistently. People aren't just showing up. They're traveling to see her. They're arriving early and waiting in lines that stretch far beyond anything a typical match produces, just for the chance to be inside the building while she plays. Professional tennis has spent years trying to crack new markets, trying to manufacture that kind of global connection between a player and a worldwide fan base. Committees, campaigns, strategic scheduling, and none of it has delivered what Eala is delivering right now, organically, just by showing up and being exactly who she is. Talent, personality, story. She didn't need a campaign. She is the campaign.
After week, as she, has done well and established herself as a really good player on tour, they all come out to support her. And so I think we saw that in Australia when it was kind of overcrowded. They put her on too small of a court. We saw it here. You can hear it from the hotel. You can hear the crowd roaring, especially at night. So it's incredible.
The Australian Open made it impossible to look away. What happened outside that stadium during her matches wasn't something you could explain away with statistics or scheduling quirks. The queues stretched beyond what anyone had planned for. Fans packed the outside areas in numbers that tournament hadn't seen in years, maybe longer. And a significant portion of them never made it inside. They had booked flights. They had arranged hotels. They had traveled to Melbourne from across the world specifically for this. And they ended up standing outside the venue, listening to a crowd they couldn't join, hearing roars erupt over points they couldn't see. And they stayed anyway. That detail says everything. They stayed because being near it still meant something. That's not fandom. That's devotion. That's the kind of pull that transcends sport entirely and becomes something closer to a movement. Then Novak Djokovic spoke. And when Djokovic speaks about tennis, the entire world goes quiet. This is the greatest player in the history of the sport. More Grand Slam titles than anyone who has ever lived. Over 2 decades competing at the absolute peak of professional tennis. He has seen everything this game has produced, lived through every era, shared courts with every generation of greatness. And he stepped forward and called Eala the greatest tennis player the Philippines has ever produced. No hesitation. No diplomatic softening, just a direct, unambiguous declaration from the man who has earned the right to define greatness in this sport. But he didn't stop there. Djokovic addressed something that's been simmering beneath the surface, the way her scheduling and court assignments have been handled at various tournaments. And he made his position clear. In his view, the decisions haven't reflected her actual status or the scale of what she draws. She has been underserved, and the sport needs to correct that. When the greatest of all time stands up and says a player deserves better, that the institution owes something to her and to the millions of people who show up for her, that isn't an opinion you can quietly set aside. That's a reckoning, and professional tennis is now officially in the middle of one.
I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's so young and she's just coming through. Alex Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest.
So here's where we land. Analysts, former Grand Slam champions, active players grinding it out on tour every single week, and the greatest tennis player who has ever picked up a racket. They are not divided on this. They are not debating it among themselves. They have all arrived at the same place, saying the same thing. Alex Eala is the next superstar of women's tennis. She is the name everyone is carrying into Indian Wells. She is the one who has already charged the air with electricity before a single serve has been struck, before a single winner has been hit. That is not normal. That is not something you can manufacture or schedule into existence. That is what rare actually looks like. And when she walks out onto that court, and the cameras find her, and the crowd rises, and that atmosphere she seems to conjure out of thin air takes hold, every eye in the tennis world will be locked in, because that's just what she does. She makes the whole world stop and watch. But now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Alex Eala is genuinely the most famous player in the WTA right now? Or do you think the hype is starting to outpace the results? When Ana Ivanovic draws a line between Eala's impact and what Manny Pacquiao did to boxing, does that comparison feel earned to you? Or does it feel like the moment getting carried away? And when you hear Jessica Pegula, a seasoned tour veteran, describe what she walked into at the Miami Open, does that surprise you? Have you ever seen that kind of raw crowd energy built around a player still on the rise? Drop everything you're thinking in the comments. Is Alex Eala the real deal, a generational force this sport is lucky to have found? Or is this a chapter we need to watch her sustain before we hand her the crown?